I became part of PTC about 3.5 years ago when we got acquired, and it's been a fascinating journey. The Hellenic Innovation Network is a fascinating group. I've known Marina for quite a while, but I just had some incredibly interesting discussions with some of the attendees here tonight. In fact, a young woman was telling me about her research, and we were talking about drug discovery, which I know nothing about, and I learned quite a bit. But let me tell you a little bit about PTC, and then I want to turn it over to Marina. PTC is a company that was started by a gentleman named Sam Geisberg in the mid-'80s. And what Sam Geisberg essentially did is allowed you to do 3D CAD, 3D solid modeling. But his big innovation that he brought to the world was he brought spreadsheets, essentially, to that 3D modeling, so you can make changes faster. And since that time, 3D solid modeling in CAD has impacted all of our lives. If you think about the coffee maker that you made your coffee this morning, the car that you drove today, the shower handle that you touched, all those things are designed better, the shapes are better, things are a lot more sort of consumer-oriented, and then how customers manufacture these products is also what PTC is involved in, which is how do you manage the information? How do you manage all of the data on your factory floor that's monitoring and producing these things? So if you think of your companies that are producing drugs and you're manufacturing them, all of those conveyor belts, all those machines, all the information associated with which lot number that was made, all those things are being managed and monitored through software that's been built and developed by PTC. Adding to that, there's a lot of innovation in augmented reality as well as field services. The whole idea that PTC has developed software for is to help companies really think about digitizing the work. So really where digital is transforming the physical. So anything that's associated with how people design, build, manufacture, service products is what PTC is involved in. For me, I've been involved in this industry for about 40 years. There's been a ton of innovation right here in the Boston area, and there continues to be, and it's a critically important space because, in fact, look around. All these buildings that are being built, all of them are going to have products in there and technology and things that are going to be designed and used by engineers across the globe. So our business is all about innovation. This network that's here, that Marina and the team are here, it's all about innovation. Greece is a wonderful, popular subject in my Irish Colombian household because in about 3 weeks, my son is living in New York, he's older, but my daughter's turning 15, and we said, where do you want to go? And she wants to go to Greece. So in about 3 weeks, we're going to Greece. So afterwards, if you have any great ideas, we'll be in a couple places in Greece, and I'll be more than happy to hear about it. So thank you. Get back. Well, we'll get back. That is the question, but we have to get back, unfortunately. So I'm going to turn it back over to Marina. Have a wonderful evening. I'm going to sit and listen and have a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, John, and the whole team here for hosting us. This is a phenomenal space, so we really appreciate all your help for the whole team. Thank you all for being here. Hellenic Innovation Network. If you haven't registered yet, it's at hellenic.org. Our goal is to help be a bridge for Greek startups expanding to the US. We have an amazing panel here for you today. Before we get to that, just for 2 seconds, I would like the people who are involved in Hellenic Innovation Network to please stand up. Michali, Simeon, who are part of making this happen. Stamatis, thank you. Thank you all. It takes a village. Anyway, Vasilis Papakonstantinou, who's the one who roped me into this whole Greek startup thing 8 years ago. And I have to tell you, what a difference to where it was 8 years ago. At that time, it was like this fantasy about what Greek startups were going to be. And today, we have unicorns, we have exits. It's like a whole new world in Greece in the startup ecosystem. And we had an amazing event in Athens that Vasilis will tell you about.
Thank you, Marina. Thank you, everybody, for coming. We started MIT Enterprise Forum Greece in 2013, and I think this will be the last event. You will see the logo of MIT Enterprise Forum. A new brand is coming up called Start Smart Southeastern Europe. It's part of a new collaboration we are having with MIT, the 𝗟 Center, and I think we can move the needle a little bit further. I'm not going to tell you much about MIT GSW. MIT GSW is an annual event MIT is doing in different cities every year. We were invited to organize 2023 and at the end, in the end of March. And we were targeting for 400, 500 people. We ended up having 1,300 people in the room. And without having to say any more, we're going to play the video with some highlights. Let's move on. Lars?
All right, thank you. My name is Lars. You probably can't tell, but I'm not Greek. But I'm married to a Greek goddess who unfortunately couldn't be here today. And I live in Athens. We're active angel investors. Love it there. Probably I'm best known for having helped create Google Maps with my brother. Anyone here use Google Maps? I have this recurring dream of speaking to an audience in a place that Google Maps can't find. There are places that I know you got lost getting here. Great. Look, I've helped create Google Maps. I worked for Google for 7 or 8 years. Then I switched to Facebook, which is a very common Silicon Valley career pattern. And in the course of that, we started angel investing as a side gig. And some of the investments that we did 10 years ago are now starting to pay off. There's a company down in Australia where I lived for a while called 𝗏𝘃𝗲𝗏 that's doing really well. That was actually our second investment. which gave me the impression that I was good at investing, which was a thesis that I very quickly disproved by writing a lot of very quick checks for companies that didn't even last a year. Now I think we have a more measured approach, and it's kind of been a full-time gig, my wife and I, for the past 2 years or so, pretty much since we moved to Greece. And I want to tell you, very impressed with the Greek startup ecosystem. We went to Greece in 2012, a decade ago. I gave a TEDx talk there. My wife helped me write the script. It's quite funny. I recommend you see it. I tried to make the case that we're at the depth of the economic crisis that devastated Greece's economy. And I tried to make the case that that's actually a really good time to be starting a company because people tend to be more willing to take risk, work on crazy things since no one is hiring anyway. And then we toured the startup ecosystem 2012 in Athens, and it was a very quick tour, I have to be honest with you. There was not a lot to see, at least that we could find back then. And the thing that really stood out was that the mood of the Athenians back then was so, I mean, for good, solid reasons, right? What was it, 50 euros you could get out of an ATM every day? These were terrible times, and people were really downbeaten. Shoulders were hanging, pessimism everywhere. In my experience, without an almost pathological sense of optimism, you cannot be successful in entrepreneurship. We decided not to move there, also for some personal reasons, and then almost a decade later, we're living in New York, the pandemic, everyone got uprooted. On a whim, we decided to move back to Greece, without at all looking at the startup scene or any such thing. We came back there, and we were blown away with how quickly Greece has built a thriving startup ecosystem from zero in 2012 to quite a lot in 2020 when we moved there. Growing so fast that I would argue the following, that if you look at the size of Greece's ecosystem today, you can compare it to some of the other cities in Europe, like Lisbon and Stockholm, similar size countries, similar sized cities. Greece is not the larger. Greece is still the smaller, right? If you look at the bigger cities like Paris, like Berlin, like London, Greece is not the bigger. But if you look at the growth trajectory from 2012 to today, and if you optimistically believe that we can keep that going for the next 5 to 10 years, I would venture that on that sort of time frame, Athens, Greece is going to be an actually truly important innovation center in Europe, if not the world. And so I'm thrilled to be here. I was at that event we saw before, which I think was the best event of last year. Well done, you guys. And we spent a bunch of time, actually, my wife and I, looking not just at what startups to invest in, but also how we can help facilitate, accelerate that growth. And we're working with these guys, trying to build a really big annual tech festival in Athens. Because I think more than anything, you know, when you have a product, you need to do marketing, and your marketing and your product development has to go in lockstep together. And I think Greece is behind on the marketing, like I didn't know. I didn't expect when I came back there that so much exciting things were happening. And so you heard it here first, 2025, tens of thousands of foreign techies are going to come to Athens to discuss the world's most pressing tech issues in Athens, because where else would you do that?
Awesome.
And if you want to help build that, I should just say I need help. I can actually barely organize a birthday party for my wife, and she'll testify anytime. So if anyone's interested in this, come find me afterwards. I just want to say lastly that we've invested maybe in 6, 7 Greek startups since we came. So about half of the investments we've done since we moved to Greece have been Greek startups. Several of them are here. 𝗏, Anodyne, possibly Rescue, I say, because they haven't let us put money into their company yet. But it's super exciting. I am a software engineer by training. And so I used to invest in software companies thinking I can help a little bit here. And now we're increasingly investing in deep tech things where I don't know anything about it, so that instead of I can help, it's more I can learn. And so well done, everyone. I'm very excited to be here. come find me afterwards. I need help with that event.
Wonderful. So we are ready for our panel now. Yanni, Scott, I saw you. Where did I see you? There you go. So the microphones are there. Pick up a microphone.
And you're on. So, Scott, do you want help with time? 30 minutes?
I thought we would try to get the schedule back on time and do like a 9.5-minute panel. Is that okay? Should we set the land speed record for fastest panel of all time? I mean, there's cocktails and networking at the end, and I'm like a little bit frightened about pushing that back too far. So Marina, just give me the sign when you think this panel should be over.
Okay.
Is that okay? I feel like the first 6 people that I met at this event all said, "Are you Greek?" And I was like, I'm not Greek, but Marina asked nicely if I would show up. So here I am to moderate this panel. If there are maybe no good Greek moderators in the startup ecosystem in Boston, I'm happy to train one. Like even Stamatis, we can turn him into a good moderator, I think, with a little bit of training. So we can do moderator summer camp as part of the Hellenic Innovation Network. Okay, good. My name is Scott Kirsner. I'm a columnist at the Boston Globe. I run a media company called InnoLead that focuses on innovation inside large companies all around the world. And I'm really excited to run this 9.5-minute panel. Can I just see by show of hands, like, are there life sciences people in the audience? Okay, and then raise your hand if you're not a life sciences person, maybe you're in tech. Okay, so like, we know that we need to keep the sophistication level like closer to my level of somebody who got C+ in chemistry and biology, not the A student level, if that's okay. Introducing all the way from the left there, we have John Maraganore, the founding CEO of Alnylam, and before that, one of the OGs at Millennium Pharmaceuticals. One down, we have Joanne Beck. She is CTO at Aerium Therapeutics. And to my left, Yiannis, Monovoukas, the founding CEO of Helios cardio. So in the interest of keeping things moving really quickly, would each of you do just like the short elevator pitch of your current company or the things you're involved in right now, John? So why don't you start?
Hi, I'm Yiannis. Helios Cardio is a regenerative medicine company. We work with cardiac surgeons and interventional cardiologists to prevent fibrosis after an heart attack or to reverse fibrosis and to avoid heart transplants.
Okay, so I'm Joanne Beck, and I work for a company named Aerium Therapeutics that is focusing on discovering and developing, right now we're focusing on monoclonal antibodies for COVID prophylaxis, but eventually develop additional antivirals.
And after 20 years of building Alnylam, I retired about a year and a half ago, and I'm now doing many, many things in the industry, all focused on bringing innovation to patients and impact for biomedical sciences, including on Joanne's board as well.
It's giving us a hard time.
Oh my God.
All right, I'd be curious, we were talking today at the Globe about Bio coming to Boston next month. It's going to be just down the street in some direction here, wherever the convention center is. That way? Am I pointing the right way? So, the entire world of biotech is coming to Boston next month. Like, how would you characterize the vibe in biotech right now? I know, like, I tend to talk more regularly to tech VCs, and like, man, that world is sitting on its wallet. It is trying to figure out, where the bottom is with the banking crisis. Like, how would you describe the vibe in biotech? Is it similar? Joanna, why don't you start? You're nodding.
Oh, no. Yes, I think it's similar. I think there's a lot of concern about financing, especially really early companies with no clinical data. But there's such great innovation and such great enthusiasm in the field that I think we'll get over it.
I mean, I think it's an interesting perfect storm. of a capital markets environment that's come off of the highs of the 2019 to 2021 bubble that has burst, that has been struggling with correction because of inflation rates being very high, but also some negative policies out there like the Inflation Reduction Act, which are impactful for the industry. But the innovation of the industry has never been better. And there really is money out there for the right ideas at the end. I mean, I recently, last week, finished a $270 million financing, Series A, for a company, which is rare.
What company was that?
Orbital Therapeutics, mRNA therapies and vaccines. So there are, for the right opportunities, the right teams, the right science, you can get funded, but it's incredibly difficult in this environment. Not like it was 2 years ago or 3 years ago.
I remember my first bio more than 10 years ago. There's a lot of excitement. It was here in Boston. A lot of excitement, but also tentativeness. Where is this thing going? And 10 years later, I can see that, yes, maybe the financial times are not the best, but remember what we've achieved the last couple of years with the mRNA technology exploding. And in my field right now, when you talk to some of the most conservative doctors out there, the cardiac surgeons, and they're open to mRNA engineered cells for cell therapy for fibrosis, you know that things have changed in the last 10 years.
Do you think, I mean, this is like a hometown question. Aside from Lars, who lives in Athens, like, can you raise your hand if you live in the Boston area? Okay, raise your hand if you don't live in the Boston area. Oh, interesting. So some people traveled for this, for the free food, I guess, tonight. Is it globally recognized that Boston is the center of the biotech industry right now, do you think? Or do you still find that you have debates with people who are like, oh, it's San Francisco, it's Cambridge, UK, it's San Diego.
It's right here. It's right here. It's all these people, and all the institutions that we have, and all the medical centers that we have. People come to Boston for the next big steps. Investors are coming to Boston, I know personally. So they're looking for the next Moderna.
Do you still find yourself in debates, John, about where is the center today?
Well, the only thing I think which is changing in a negative way for the hub, if you will, is this hybrid work plan or work approach that we increasingly are seeing. And I think that has the risk of sort of eroding the concept of a like center for the industry. So it's something to watch for, actually.
I feel like our hope was always that lab-dependent companies would get back to the 5-day-a-week thing, but the thing that I've heard, I ran into somebody from Sage yesterday, and it's like, okay, yeah, so if you need to be in the lab, you may be in 4 or 5 days a week, but the front office business side people can be just as remote as a software developer, right?
And even the lab workers are balancing their time in the lab with their time to analyze data from home, and so it's different.
Let me ask maybe one more question, and then I'm curious if there are questions out here in the audience. I instructed all of the panelists, maybe Yiannis claims that he wasn't paying attention to the email thread, but maybe you've come up with a question. I always like to ask panelists to ask questions of each other, because I feel like they often have sharper questions than I come with. So, Joanne, I know you read that email because you started that thread, so do you have a question for Yiannis and John?
I missed that part.
Yeah. John, how's your reading comprehension?
No, I read that question. I mean, I wanted to ask my panelists, what are they most excited about these days in this current environment? What are the scientific advances, clinical advances that the two of you are most interested in?
Let me take this one. We looked at solving some of the most incredibly difficult problems to solve in the intersection of engineering and medicine, right? Fixing the heart. Marina's father, Dr. Tzouvalopoulos, dealt with that with a left ventricular assist device. And we have time, I'll tell you more about that. But right now, we're dealing with this very extremely difficult problem. And we looked at the latest technology around us, mRNA, and can we deliver mRNA straight to the heart and so on. But cell therapy is what people are really excited about, in that it is the cell. The cell has all the magic. And and we can engineer the cell, then we can achieve many things in medicine.
So I'll follow up a little bit on what you just said, because I think cell therapy specifically has brought all these different disciplines together. It really, really pushed the limit of how we can work in silos in companies. And physicians started talking to people in manufacturing all of a sudden. And I see this same kind of approach replicated in a startup at Aerium, which is the smallest company I work at, where there's no barriers at all to the conversation, and I think that helps us move things faster and make better decisions in general that are more holistic.
And Scott, what about you?
I have to say thank you for asking, John.
Chemistry is okay.
I'll just say really quickly, I was visiting one of the Ginkgo spin-offs this morning, this company called 𝗟𝗃𝗃 that's over in the South End, and one of the things that they're working on is using synthetic biology to create all kinds of new cosmetics, but one of their first products is a deodorant. And so I was hearing, this is the less glamorous side of the biotech industry, how they were swabbing their employees' armpits to better understand the bacteria that causes odor and develop ingredients to combat it. Yes, I haven't written about deodorant companies before in Boston, but there's a first time. Do you have a question, or do you want me to keep going? I can go all day. Yeah, all right. One of the things that I wanted to ask the panelists was just to think about like a pivotal decision in your career, whether it was like a right decision or a wrong decision that you would kind of reflect back on. And are you ready, or do you need a little more time?
I'll go first.
Okay.
Many of you explored or contemplated whether to stay in academia or become entrepreneurs, founders, going to business. I think everybody goes through that. I went through that too, and it is scary in the beginning, but thanks to a mentor, you go forward with a lot of optimism. But that was one of the decisions that I made, to abandon academia and move into the world of entrepreneurship. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. I started 10 companies, so I'm glad about that.
Were your parents pro or con that decision?
Con, 100%. But it was Marina's father, Dr. Tzouvalopoulos, who pushed me forward and said, Yanni, you got to start your own company. So that helped tremendously.
What program did you drop out of? Or
I didn't drop out.
to?
Yes, I was in a PhD chemistry, but I was going Silicon Valley material science, and then things changed because of George.
Love it. Yeah, anybody that can make references to Marina and her family, you get extra brownie points tonight. Joanne, how about you?
Let's see. So I think one of the decisions I made was not good or bad. It was just a very difficult decision. When I worked for Abbott, there was an opportunity to be head of a site in Germany, and going from pharmaceutical development to Abbott's vascular division, which is all about devices. And my parents lived in Greece at the time, and my father was very ill. So it was a big decision to take that position. It was a temporary position. And move over there. I learned German while driving back and forth to Abbott's Worcester facility from Newton. And took the leap. I figured out that I can pretty much do anything if I can go in the middle of nowhere in Germany and run a completely unfamiliar organization and technology and do pretty well with it. So I guess that was it changed, I think, a lot about my perception of who I am and what I can do as a person. It wasn't as entrepreneurial, but...
And it's the first story I've heard where something productive happened from going to Worcester. So that's another moral of that story. No, I know. I love Worcester. Really, I do. John?
The one that I obviously was a game changer for me in life was in the summer of 2002. Because in that summer, I managed to get remarried, which after with my wife, who I've been with for over 20 years. But I also, at the time, was being recruited to go lead Millennium, where I was very happy and things were great to go run this new startup. And he was during the bubble crashing in 2000, and people thought, oh, there's no way scientific innovation like RNAi would ever be funded. And you know, I read the science, I got infected by the idea of actually making new medicines based on this great science, and I decided to take the plunge, both in marriage and in running the company. And you know, obviously it was a decision I look back on with great happiness, you know, but it was a risky decision at the time. And I think, yeah, go ahead.
Were the two connected? Like the term sheet had a clause that was like, you need to get remarried if you want to get...
No, but having said that, my offer letter was FedExed to my honeymoon suite in Mauritius. And when we arrived there after the long trip there was a bottle of champagne and my offer letter. And my wife doesn't let me forget that fact to this day.
That is wild. Are there questions out here in the audience for these three awesome panelists? Or are you looking at the slide that says 710? Oh, you don't see the slide that says 710 cocktails and networking, so it's not distracting you. But okay, one question out in the audience. Yeah.
Great. John, I have a question. You mentioned that there's capital available for great ideas. Obviously, Alnylam had a great idea, and but what did you see in Orbital, for example, that brings together a syndicate like 𝗟R𝗿𝗃𝗃 that is differentiated and compelling enough to raise an oversubscribed round?
Well, I mean, it starts in that case with the recognition that RNA-based medicines are in the first inning of where they'll go. And we all benefited, we're here today because of RNA-based vaccines. But there are still hurdles that need to be addressed to really unleash the opportunity for RNA-based medicines. And so Orbital is really positioned to open up that next chapter. And the investors that came behind the company all saw that opportunity, both the science, but also importantly the people behind it as well. And that's what made it happen. It was a very oversubscribed round, and you know, one that actually had a lot of very strong investors behind it, which is great. But you know, I'm very, very optimistic that, and I've seen other financings. In fact, over the last 3 months, I've been involved with companies, a total of 5 that have raised capital rounds and have in aggregate raised over 840 million. So the money is there. If the science is there and the people are there, the money is there.
It does seem interesting that one of the things that characterizes Boston and like Boston investors, right, is this, you know, the kind of this looking for what the cutting edge of science is and how can we bring it often out of academia, right, into startups. One of the things I'm fascinated with now, which feels like this is going to take us to really interesting new places, is hearing about people using AI to analyze the scientific literature, right, and look for patterns in, like, you know, lots of people read journal articles, but you can't read every journal that's been published in the last 2 years. I don't know if any of you are leveraging that, or you see people. You have an AI working on your behalf to read the journals?
No, I just did this this morning. I was reviewing some data slides, and I forgot about a drug that used to be used for something, and I asked ChatGPT, you know, what happened with this drug, and I got a beautiful description of it, very well done. It's incredibly powerful and helpful.
I used it a little bit, looking at patents, prior art. You know, there are so many things out there, and before you spend the time and energy and money to file something new, let's see who else has done what, where. It's interesting. I even asked them a question in Greek, and they answered me in Greek. Perfect Greek.
Really?
Wait, ChatGPT knows Greek?
I was terrified.
But you know, Yiannis, that is a fantastic application of ChatGPT. With the prior art out there in English or Greek,
Or
you know, I would say, or Chinese or whatever language.
All right, this is news for me. I didn't realize it was multilingual.
Very smart.
All right. Hey, if there are no other questions, I know we're all excited to see the startup pitches, so we're going to move on to that, but please help me thank these 3 amazing panelists.
a real quick round. Where the judging panel, maybe you can all like sit over there somewhere. So yeah, maybe where Dean is sitting right there, just so that you're all sort of, yeah, just in one place. So what we're going to do is, this is going to be a lightning round. They have been strictly instructed. They have 3 minutes to pitch. So forgive them if they're not giving you huge detail on things. The idea is to whet your appetite to learn more. Anything that is of interest to you or where you think you might have useful connections for them, please make a point to find them after during the networking event. This whole event here is to help them get networked into this amazing ecosystem that we have here in Boston. So let's get to it. Here's the... And there'll be 2 minutes of Q&A at the end. If you in the audience have a question, feel free to raise your hand. Otherwise, the judges will be asking questions or providing commentary.
I'm going to try this. 𝗏𝘃𝗏𝘃𝗏? Okay, that means good evening. I think it's still appropriate. Not Greek. I'm representing Andreas Psaris, our CEO and founder, who is Greek. Our company is called 𝗏𝘃𝗏𝗏𝗏, which is ancient Greek for interpreter. And that's what we do. We interpret. But what are we interpreting? The human genome. So what we do really well and what we're known for is a platform called 𝗏𝘃𝘃𝗏𝗏. And 𝗏𝘃𝘃𝗏 takes all this data, all this disparate data that we know about the human genome, and it helps answer questions, much like we heard about with ChatGPT. We've been doing this since 2014. Our market size is everyone has a genome, so that's big, but the clinical testing market today is $22 billion. You might see other numbers. Some of this includes sequencing and the chemistries that are involved, but we're looking at the clinical testing market, in particular, at $22 billion. 𝗏𝘃𝘃𝗏𝗏 has over 500,000 unique users globally. We came to the US last, which is amazing. Most come to the US first. So we have 𝗏𝘃𝘃𝗏𝗏 users in well over 150 countries. We have paying customers in 55 countries. Really proud of that. Our key differentiator is that network effect. We are learning, we're still learning. We got a lot of questions answered, we got even more to answer. And having a network effect with a lot of users who actually know how to interpret your DNA is key. And so that search engine is a freemium model. That's how we've been quickly able to get so many users. Our IP is a molecular database. We have one of the more comprehensive with over 140 human genome data sources. Again, not for the faint of heart. It's really hard to aggregate all this data. And our people, we have an amazing team, 46 of which are in Athens. We have a total of 70 people. We have 383 customers. Our ARR is $5 million. To date, we've raised $7 million. We're asking for between 5 and 15. We really need a lead investor at this point. Why? We need to help scale. We have 383 customers. We have a lot of listening to do. We have a lot of development to do. This is in the clinic. We're helping save babies. So we need help. We're looking for connections, lab directors, anyone who's involved with DNA. Thank you so much. Any questions?
What's the next big milestone for your company with these funds that you're going to raise?
Yeah, good question. So we've been doubling year over year, so in a very predictive manner. We want to continue to build out a global commercial team, again, to take advantage of the fact that we have so many users already embedded in hospitals and clinics and labs globally. So that's a big portion of it. We also need to go deeper into the clinic There's other omics that are obviously quite important. DNA obviously is the most stable molecule in the human body, and it's the anchor omic. But there's other omics to go after to answer additional questions in the clinic. So we're going to start using these funds to not only expand the commercial team, but also our wonderful team that we've already got in place here so we can go deeper in the clinic. Yes?
Yeah, a couple of questions. 5 to 15 is a big range.
Yes.
Why 15? And is this Series A?
So we've had a Series A, and so we're at a point now, we hit profitability in the fourth quarter of 2022, but we're balancing hiring with, keeping our revenue up, and so we've not been in a rush to raise, quite frankly, especially in the last 12 to 18 months where there's been some fluctuation in the VC market. And with our revenue having some level of predictability with it. That being said, we see it as a great opportunity to really scale and take advantage. I will mention we have a clinical software in Europe. It has IVD CE mark. We're going for the new IVDR regulation in Europe. We're still monitoring the United States with SAMD software as a medical device. There's still a little transparency there for us. But we see an opportunity to, because the barriers to entry are, quite frankly, are going to increase dramatically. We're going to have a moat in Europe with the IVDR. So that's another reason we really want to scale up and take advantage of that now.
Thank you.
Yep.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here. I still got to figure this out. 1 second. I killed it. Revived it.
There you go.
There we go. All right. So, Kalispera again. My name is 𝗟𝗿𝗀𝗃𝗃. I'm the CBO of a company called 𝗏𝗏. So what is 𝗏𝗏? 𝗏𝗏 is an automated machine learning platform that's been designed specifically for life science data and can handle from omic, multi-omic, any type of information that you have, even full genome data, images, and signals. And what it does is you run these data sets through the application, and what it can do, it can limit the amount of biomarkers that you have to work with and later on validate. So it can significantly reduce the time and money spent in order to get your cures or diagnostic assays to market. Give you an example. One of our customers started with a methylation data set, 860,000 features, running it through 𝗏𝗏. In less than a week, they were able to reduce those to 4. And mind you, other customers have identified novel biomarkers that were never existing before in the bibliography or ever. So they were able to figure out if someone can have severe COVID through that and limit the amount of re-hospitalizations or even get a diagnostic assay market. So obviously the market is huge. Anyone in academia, public institutions of research, biotech and pharma can be a customer. They don't need to know machine learning to use this, but if they do, we have APIs and advanced analytics capabilities that they can, add their own algorithms or train to have parameters and everything that they need to do. So again, this has been built for life science in mind. So what we can do is, as I said, limit the amount of time it takes you to get there. But to give you an example, something that would take 6 to 8 months, you can do in 1 to 2 days. Okay? So we are a Greek-based company. It's a spin-off of a Greek university, University of Crete. And most of the team in R&D is done there. As you can see, we have 20 paying customers already. We're in C+ stage. So looking forward to getting some money around the 2.5 and 3 mark in order to be able to reach those bigger, higher customers with longer sales cycles. And this is where you can help. You can get us in touch with VCs. You can get us in touch with PIs and research executives. You can get us in touch with partners so we can have complete solutions going together to customers to address everything from starting from very low pre-processing all the way to having the insight. Anyone interested? Happy to talk to you after this. Thank you so much. Any questions? Yes, no? I did a great job, didn't I?
What is the source of your data that you're using?
So what we're offering is a software as a service, right? We're offering the tool. The data can be publicly available data or proprietary data that they have. So we can deploy on the cloud. We're an Amazon partner, or we can deploy on their premises if we're talking about larger deployments and stricter, data use requirements. Yeah, please.
So there are the big companies out there that can do this, but the proof is those four molecules that you identify.
Yes, they can be validated later on.
Exactly.
Yes,
Okay, now you
we already have customers. The tool has been out for 1.5 years, about 2 years now. Some of them have already gone through the validation stage. We have a customer that told us we saved them about 8 months of work and 50,000 euro in wet lab, dry lab iterations in order to validate these biomarkers. Nothing? Excellent. Thank you so much, everybody.
So, do you know that there are 350 million people in the world suffering from genetic disorders? And in fact, the big problem in genetic disorders is diagnosis. It takes on average 7 years to have a diagnosis, and unfortunately, 40% are misdiagnosed. I think we have to do something. So our technology, our diagnostic technology, is faster, better, cheaper than competition, and we achieve that by combining genomics, AI or machine learning, and blockchain. With genomics, we were able to put 10 times more samples in a flow cell than competition. In fact, also this reduces very significantly the cost. With AI, we managed to do it 10 times faster. And also the ones who know about this, we reduce the unclassified reads by 35%. And with blockchain, trust and transparency is extremely important, especially when you have to do with bioethical committees. As one of our top customers in the US said, G-Mental has a sea change technology. My team and I were very impressed. Just I would like to show you a little bit the traction that we have. So we are an ISO certified company. We got a CE mark just last year. We have good traction in Europe. We are a Danish-based company. So we got 4 grants of approximately $1 million. 2 from Denmark, 2 from the European Union. We have a lot of LOIs with European hospitals, but also we have something in the US. Something very important actually. A co-development for a program here, the New England Newborn Screening Program, which screens more than 110,000 kids per year. We have also good traction around the world, but I will not tell you about this because Marina will not be happy if I do not finish. So, the market. You have the conventional techniques, which are unfortunately inaccurate, but broadly used. You have the so-called next generation sequencing, which is accurate, but expensive, and it takes time. And then you have the combination, genomics, AI, etc., where we are. The market is very big, but we do it better, faster, and cheaper than anybody else, and we hope we will continue doing that. We are a team of approximately 22 people, not approximately, precisely 22 people, and we have a well-protected IP. But I think the most important is the ecosystem. So my time is off, so I cannot tell you more. But what I need from you is just to help us come in contact with doctors, healthcare professionals, experts in states, and if you know anybody, any VC, please also help us. And if you have money, please give us also some money.
Question. I've seen this area, genomics and AI, for I think the first time that this is somewhat combined blockchain as well.
Louder.
Is this because of data security? What's the reason?
I think that's a very good question. Excuse me?
Repeat the question.
Repeat the question.
Yes, so basically he asked about the blockchain. That he has seen also AI, etc., but he has not seen the combination of blockchain, why we use blockchain. And I believe this is an excellent question because the ones who have been involved here in this field, they know the challenge of ethical committees. The data should belong to the patient, to nobody else. And the patient needs to have security and transparency and also traceability of the data. That's why we involve that. It does not help us for making it cheaper or faster or better, but it helps us for the traceability and also for the safety for the patient. More questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, this is 𝗟𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. I'm co-founder and CEO to 𝗜𝗃. Marina, thank you for the invitation. So we're privileged to be in a space that has amazingly gifted scientists. I'm not one of them. And as we heard in the panel, there's amazing science coming up every day, all the time. At the same time, most of the assets, most of the programs being tested, eventually will never reach the basic. Like we're in oncology, in 𝗟𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, mostly, 95% of the assets, of the programs, drug development, will fail. Maybe as early as phase 1, maybe as late as phase 3. So in a way, an elephant in the room in the space is risk. To a large extent, risk is inherent to the space. So it's meant to be there. But as developing sciences and sophisticated sciences, decision-making science is not as sophisticated. That's where we come into the space. And the mantra, if you will, of 𝗟𝗿𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀, to address risk, you need to understand risk. So what we do is applying data science. I should be using probably the words AI and machine learning since ChatGPT has become so trendy. But we apply data science to assess that risk. Now, how well does it work? What's the competitive advantage in this words? Actually, the competitive advantage is that it's accurate enough. We have been 5.5 years now pushing the boundaries in the space, and we've come to a point where we have about 80% accuracy, not back testing data in machine learning models, but actually forward. What we did is, at the end of 2021, we tested we said, that's our predictions, and we tracked them throughout 2022. About 80% of the cases we were right. We've come to the point where we work with large pharmaceuticals, mostly R&D and business development, and they trust our assessments. Not telling them what to do, but as a decision-making support. So what is the ask? We may fundraising in the next few months. That's not the ask. We have sufficient runway. What we have been seeing is that more and more people are coming into our space. We increasingly face competition where we have been kind of the pioneers, the mavericks in the space. Now we see the likes of IQVIA. And since we see the likes of IQVIA, that's validating our space. That's also a threat. That's also an opportunity. The opportunity lies with eventually partnering with the other CROs in the space, the ones who don't want to be with what IQVIA did, what we did, I think in a more sophisticated way. So to the extent you We have contacts in CRO, like the Pharmaceuticals, the Cofounder, the icons, and so forth of the world. Please offer them, and I'd love to connect and explore. Thank you.
Can I go back to these collaborations with the 3 out of 10 top pharmaceutical companies in this strategic partnership with the CS? Can you tell us more about this? Because I think it is very difficult for new money to come in and be able to tell the difference between this company and that company's technology. What is marketable and actionable is true relationships that we have with these partners. Not just to validate, which was an excellent point earlier, that's the first step, but it is kind of entering into a partnership so that if it goes to the market, if it goes to the clinic, then you have royalties. That's hugely marketable if you can get them. You're making the first steps, but can you get to that?
Exactly, and it goes back to our business model. What we do now is we sell licenses, we're software as a service company. And then the question is, given that we can add some value, like in some assets, maybe it's few percentage, but it's helping people like you eventually prioritize some things or not sell other things. Like, how can we get a better part of the pie? The partnership with CS is not helping us in that direction. The partnership with CS, like CS has invested money in the company and is a strategic partner, and they're using a lot of our insights in their own strategic, like portfolio strategy engagements or business development engagements with pharma and bio. Where that could play in is increasingly looking at, can we approach the head of R&D of companies and say, when we back test and backtrack your competitors, we see that over the last 5 years they could potentially have made better decisions if they took into consideration our risk assessments, and we partner with you so that you make better decisions for your portfolio. Or financial institutions. What we have done, sorry, I'm going to let you allow this. We have done is we have been backtracking, back testing. If someone invests in public trade pilot, like only knowing the risk, which is a key arbitrage. Again, it's the main unknown in the space. What happens? What we've seen is that actually we have some pretty enticing returns. There is a question of how we generate more value in this space and how we also as a company materialize more value in this space. Marina, thank you for the
Obviously doing something over here. How does it move forward?
Decided. Oh, the second one.
Okay, this is us. Καλησπέρα σας. I am Giorgos Kretas, founder and CEO of Rescue Biotech. Rescue Biotech applies innovative biotechnologies to develop new and effective drugs against protein misfolding diseases. Protein misfolding diseases are a large group of more than 50 disorders which are caused because of the problematic folding of specific proteins. They include devastating conditions like Alzheimer's disease, Parkinson's, and type 2 diabetes that affect hundreds of millions of people worldwide. The vast majority of them remain incurable, so there is currently a great need for the development of effective therapeutics against them. Rescue Biotech is developing short-cyclic peptides that specifically recognize these misfolded proteins and rescues their pathogenic conformation. To advance the early stages of drug discovery against these diseases, we have taken simple microorganisms like E. coli bacteria and we have engineered them genetically so that they can function as a standalone living drug discovery platform. What our wonderful bacteria do is that they function as a cell factory for the production of hundreds of millions to tens of billions of different molecules. They can simultaneously screen these gazillion of molecules and identify the ones that effectively fix this misfolding. Our technology offers a number of important advantages. First, it allows us to investigate an enormous library of molecules to start the discovery process. And this increases dramatically the chances of identifying molecules with the desired properties. Second, it allows us to investigate molecules which have never been studied before, and thus identifying new molecules without intellectual property restrictions. Third, our technology is so simple, fast, and cheap that it can do what other approaches do in months in only a few days and at just a fraction of the cost. And finally, it constitutes a platform technology which can be readily applicable to potentially every protein misfolding disease. So far, we have identified curative drugs against Alzheimer's disease and ALS. We have filed patent applications and we own all the rights for their commercial exploitation. Our first used disease target is ALS, which is a really devastating neurodegenerative disease. We will generate revenue by licensing our molecules out to larger pharmaceutical companies who want to enrich their pipelines with new drugs. So far, we have received initial traction with our technology from major pharmaceutical companies, and also we're very proud to say that Nature has selected us among the most exciting science-based companies to have emerged out of academic institutions in the last few years. Our team combines many years of experience in complementary skills. Currently, we are raising our seed round of funding to complete the full preclinical development of our ALS molecules and achieve preclinical proof of concept. This will take approximately 2.5 years, and for that we're asking for $3.5 million. We're here in Boston to make new connections with life science VCs and with executives from pharma industry. We're looking forward to meeting all of you. Thank you so much for your attention.
So, is this your technology is part AI, computational, and then you do lab experiments, or what's the balance?
It's experimental. So we have made these modified bacteria that produce these combinatorial molecular libraries that make all these molecules that I briefly mentioned. They're short cyclic peptides, or combinatorial libraries of short, small molecule-like cyclic peptides, and we have built. We have modified our bacteria at a second level so that they can quickly go through these very large molecular libraries and identify which one can interact with the misfolded human protein and correct this problematic conformation. So it's an experimental technique.
Can you share with us if you've started testing on animals and what have been the early findings or results?
So this is the milestone that we want to achieve this year. So demonstrate in vivo proof of concept in rodent models of the disease that we're targeting, namely ALS in this case.
How many people are you? Are you all in Greece? I think this is fascinating. You should be asking for more money.
Yes, and so the plan is, it is important for us, in order to prove the potential, the great potential that the platform has, it is important for us to demonstrate for one indication that our molecules can reach a late preclinical stage. I think at that point, that we will have shown the proof of concept for our technology, then I think that the possibilities will be practically endless, exactly because we have a technology at hand that can target all these diseases that share this common molecular feature. So initially we're going, let's say, smaller, but afterwards when we have demonstrated that, we really want to go for much bigger numbers.
Okay, thank you.
Hello everyone. I'm 𝗟𝗿𝗃𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀𝗀. I'm the co-founder and CEO of 𝗍𝗪𝗔. I'm originally from Athens, Greece, as you can probably tell from the accent, but I lived in Boston for 3 years. I went to school here and I'm excited to be back and see how Boston has exploded in the last years. Regarding 𝗍𝗪𝗔, so the cost of quality of modern medication when it comes to manufacturing is about 40%. So we're paying 40% of cost, because of quality. And that's the mission of 𝗏𝘃𝗻, to actually improve that. So we provide a manufacturing operations platform that unlocks data from commercial manufacturing, but also clinical and R&D, and uses that data to transform day-to-day manufacturing operations using AI and ML. I'm not sure how much you know about pharma manufacturing, but 80% of pharma manufacturing takes place with paper. Pharma manufacturing and biotech manufacturing, it's the second least digital industry, only after the public sector. And what I'm sure you know about pharma manufacturing is that it's a huge industry. So it's about 20 billion, growing at about 20% annually. So that's the market we are in, and we are in an amazing position to have minimal competition, because competition is only big companies, the SAPs of the world, that it's very difficult to innovate, while it's an industry that is very difficult to penetrate, because pharma companies don't trust startups for manufacturing. How we did it? We started in Greece in 2016. It took us about 2 years to figure out what we want to do. We utilized the Greek pharma ecosystem. I don't know how much you know about Greek pharma, but there is about 40 manufacturing sites in Greece. So we did what we call invent locally, apply globally. So we approached them, we told them that we want to build solutions with them, and then sell them globally, and that's what we have been doing. We have about 60 customers globally nowadays, 5 of them are in the US, and we're completely bootstrapped. We recently received our first term sheet. The market is moving fast, especially after COVID. Pharma companies realize that they cannot go to the site to sign production documents. So the market is exploding. This is the opportunity that we are tapping, and what we need is people that know the industry and they understand the industry. So VCs that are vertically oriented in deep tech, software as a service, ideally in Industry 4.0, or anyone. We're also interested in angels that are connected when it comes to pharma manufacturing, to pharma operations. So I think that was it. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Where is Chris Anthony? Is he still here?
Yeah. I'm here.
Chris, you should ask a good question.
I will afterwards. Yeah.
Cool. If no questions, then I guess it's time for cocktail.
What an amazing group of startups that we have. I'm so impressed. Thank you all for coming. Thank you again to PTC for hosting us, Angela and the team. If all the entrepreneurs could gather around, we'll do a picture of you up here. And everyone else, please enjoy the food and wine, and please network, make connections.